On the launch deck of the supercarrier USS George H.W. there's a box that shouldn't be there. No missile launchers, no turrets, no gun barrels. Most of the crew walk past it every day without knowing that inside this anonymous container lies the answer to a problem that could cripple an entire billion-dollar fleet without sinking any ships. The paradox is this: a cheap drone doesn't need to defeat an aircraft carrier. It just needs to force that ship to spend its money the wrong way. When the radar blazes with 50 inexpensive fiberglass targets, the million-dollar interceptor missiles suddenly become a financial burden. If you fire, you'll go bankrupt from running out of ammunition. If you don't, the deck will catch fire. The issue is no longer firepower, it's mathematics. The US Navy learned this lesson the hard way. In 2000, the destroyer USS Cole wasn't taken down by an equally matched enemy fleet. It was torn apart by a small boat loaded with explosives. That scar wasn't just physical damage, it was a scar on war doctrine. Small threats can force massive entities to make impossible decisions. Today's swarm of drones isn't new logic. It's just an old, asymmetrical idea given wings, lithium batteries, and mass production capabilities. To understand why that container was the only saving grace, we must delve into three things: swarm mathematics, laser physics, and a new defensive architecture where a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier is no longer just a floating airfield, but a pure energy-powered ammunition depot. The journey to decipher the light algorithm begins now. The starting point of this revolution lies in a never-healing scar in the minds of naval strategists. It's the cruel paradox of the steel giants. Why are the most powerful warships on the planet so often brought down by the smallest and cheapest entities? In 2000, at the port of Aden, the destroyer USS Cole became a devastating example of how a modern warship doesn't necessarily need to face an equally powerful fleet to be threatened. A small boat loaded with explosives ripped through the steel hull of one of the world's most advanced warships. The lesson here isn't that American ships are weak or that steel armor is outdated. The real lesson lies in asymmetrical warfare. When the adversary knows they cannot win a direct naval battle, they will seek to disrupt the very conditions of combat that we were designed to dominate. The scar of the past isn't that American ships can be hit, but that cheap threats can force expensive ships to fight by the wrong rules. Throughout the decades of the Cold War and afterward, the defensive philosophy of carrier strike groups, CSGs, was based on a single premise: the power of distance. We built layers of defense around aircraft carriers with the goal of long-range detection with powerful radar, long-range interception with precision missiles, and keeping the heart of the fleet out of danger. But Drone Swarm has overturned this entire logic. Drones don't need perfect radar to find their target, nor do they need each one to survive. Their goal is overwhelming numbers to wear down the defense system. When you use $1 million missile to shoot down something that costs the price of a laptop, you're losing a war you thought you were winning. Consider the evolution of the threat. The explosives of the previous decade were a single entity, relying on the element of surprise at close range. The drone swarm of today is an evolved form of that very idea, but endowed with wings, artificial intelligence, and mass production capabilities. Both share a common essence: forcing massive ships to react to targets thousands of times cheaper than the assets being protected. Drone swarming isn't entirely new logic. It's an old asymmetrical idea, reborn in the digital age, where quantity is a new kind of quality. But why is the US Navy so obsessively focused on verification to such an extreme degree? Why does it not simply destroy everything that moves inside the danger zone? The answer lies in a deep scar named USS Vincennes. On the 3rd of July, 1988, the Strait of Hormuz witnessed one of the darkest tragedies in modern naval history. The guided missile cruiser USS Vincennes, equipped with the most advanced Aegis system of its time, shot down the civilian flight Iran Air 655. 290 lives vanished in an instant. The mistake was not that the missile failed to hit. The mistake was misidentification. In the thick atmosphere of an engagement with Iranian fast boats, The combat team believed the aircraft was descending to attack, while in reality, it was climbing away. This is the most costly lesson about what happens when information is unclear and humans are under extreme pressure. Even the most powerful technology can become a double-edged blade. After Vincennes, the US Navy understood that it did not need a simple linear kill chain. It needed a kill web. What is the difference? In the past, if your ship's radar was wrong, your decision was wrong. Today, information must be verified from multiple sources. Data from satellites must match the E2D Hawkeye, and the E2D must match the infrared sensors aboard the ship. The purpose of the modern kill web is not only to shorten the time needed to destroy a target down to just a few seconds, but also to extend the time in which a human can confirm, I know exactly what I'm firing at. This network was born not only to kill faster, it was born to see more clearly before the fire button is pressed. But while the Americans are working to see more clearly, their adversaries in Tehran are doing the opposite. They have mastered the use of Hormuz's own ambiguity, turning it into a special kind of firepower. The Iranian Navy and the IRGC are not delusional. They understand that directly confronting a carrier strike group in the open sea would be an act of suicide, so they do not try to build a symmetrical fleet. Instead, they turn the geography of Hormuz into an ally. By exploiting the jagged coastline, islands such as Keshem, and the dense concentration of civilian vessels, Iran has transformed this strait into a surface guerrilla battlefield. They do not need to control the sea in the traditional sense. They only need to make the sea unpredictable. Iran's strategy operates through 4 mutually reinforcing mechanisms, forming a shackle that tightens around America's decision-making cycle. Mechanism 1, confusion. This is the attack on the command brain. By using AIS spoofing and blending fast attack craft into fishing fleets, Iran creates a battle space where truth and deception are intertwined. Every time a bright dot appears on radar, an American officer must ask, is this a fisherman trying to make a living, or a missile launcher looking for a firing solution? Mechanism 2, compression. Hormuz is extremely narrow. The distance from Iran's coastal missile launchers to the international shipping lanes is often measured in only a few dozen miles. This compresses warning time from minutes down to mere seconds. In that compressed space, every hesitation carries a heavy price. Mechanism 3, saturation. Iran does not use a single silver bullet. It uses swarms. Suicide drones, sea-skimming cruise missiles, mini submarines, and smart mines. Each individual system may be imperfect, but when released simultaneously, they create a storm of data, forcing the Aegis system to operate at its critical threshold. Mechanism 4, cost imposition. This is the economics of war. Iran uses a $20,000 drone to force America to fire a $2 million SM-2 missile. It uses a crude mine to send global insurance costs soaring. Iran is trying to defeat America through the logistics bill before defeating it through firepower. Iran does not need giant aircraft carriers. It only needs to turn geography into a weapon, cheap systems into pressure, and ambiguity into a form of strategic firepower capable of shaking even a superpower. Shaking even a superpower. To break Tehran's algorithm of chaos, the United States Navy does not rely only on gun barrels. It responds with a digital nervous system. If Iran is trying to steal certainty, then America strikes back by building an architecture of absolute verification. America breaks this chain with an opposite logic. Detect early in order to extend time, verify through multiple sources in order to eliminate deception, share data in order to create unity, and intercept in layers in order to protect the depth of firepower. In this game, whoever masters clean data masters the strait. America's defensive architecture in Hormuz is divided into 4 functional layers, operating in sync as a single entity. Layer 1, eyes. At the center of this layer is the E-2D Advanced Hawkeye. At an altitude of tens of thousands of feet, it extends the radar horizon, allowing the fleet to detect sea-skimming drones from distances at which the destroyer's own radar is blocked by the curvature of the Earth. Combined with the P-8 Poseidon and MH-60R helicopters dropping sonobuoys, America creates a transparent observation cage stretching from the stratosphere down to the sandy seabed. Layer 2, nerves. This is where the magic happens. Through Link 1.6 and CEC, cooperative engagement capability, raw data from every sensor is fused together. If an Iranian speedboat spoofs a civilian AIS signal, but the infrared sensor on the Hawkeye detects the heat signature of a military engine, the system will immediately label it hostile. No ship has to make decisions alone based on a single source of information. Layer 3, shield. Once the target has been verified, the shield layer is activated in depth. SM2. Look at the evolution of defensive intelligence through a comparison between 2 moments in history. 1988. The picture was distorted. At the moment the Vincennes opened fire, radar data was extremely limited. The commander had to make a decision based on a single source of information inside a high-pressure environment where information was disrupted by the psychology of combat. The result was a tragedy born from misread data. 2026. The objective is multi-source verification. Today, if the Spruan sees a suspicious target, the system does not simply wait on radar. It immediately summons data from the E-2D, looking down from above, the infrared sensors of the P-8 Poseidon, and AI-assisted classification capabilities. This evolution completely changes the combat philosophy of the United States Navy. In the past, the objective was to see the enemy first. Today, in an environment where everyone can see everyone else, the ultimate objective has changed. The goal is no longer just to see first. The goal is to know correctly first. The objective is no longer to see first, but to know correctly first. This ability to know correctly is exactly what allows the American fleet to operate inside the compression chamber of Hormuz without causing a catastrophe, while still maintaining absolute control against every ambush. Against every ambush. Against every against When the layers of technological fog are peeled away, we realize that the American fleet does not operate on algorithm. At its deepest level, this is a war of intelligence and steadiness. In this final section, we will move beyond the hardware to decode the nature of sea power in the digital age. Inside the dim blue glow of the CIC, the heart of the defensive system is not the supercomputer, but the commanding officer. At Hormuz, the OODA loop observe, orient, decide, act is compressed to a suffocating degree. Observe and orient. The radar sees a bright dot. AIS reports it as a commercial vessel, but Hawkeye sends back data showing an abnormal trajectory. Is this a technical error, a sophisticated decoy, or a real strike? Decide and act. This is where the tragedy of the USS Vincennes in 1988 reminds us. A powerful system cannot prioritize speed alone. It must optimize for correctness. Firing too slowly may allow the ship to be hit, but firing wrongly could ignite a global war. The mission of the kill web is not to replace the human being, but to stretch the distance between panic and action. It provides enough verified data for the commander to decide with absolute clarity. The final weapon is not the missile, but disciplined judgment under pressure. So what is the next step for the United States Navy? The answer does not lie in larger ships, but in a smarter nervous system. Unmanned forward. USV surface vessels and Orca XL UUV unmanned. After all the algorithms, the layered defenses, and the digital nervous networks, what are we left with? The Strait of Hormuz is not merely a choke point on the maritime map. It is a brutal test of the resolve and evolution of a superpower. Tehran has been highly successful in turning Hormuz into a dark zone of uncertainty. But America has answered with the opposite philosophy, turning every platform, from a reconnaissance aircraft to a lone destroyer, into a link within an impenetrable network of verification and response. The true victory in the 4:2 a.m. scenario does not lie in a destroyer surviving a simulated ambush. The true victory lies in evolution. The United States Navy has carried the scar of the Iran Air 6